Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the college football version of Proline. I'm John Cranton in Las Vegas, joined by Vegas wagering experts Harvard Barnhart and Zach Simony. Got three big games going this weekend, two NFL playoff games, and the big college football title game going on Monday from Arizona. I'm going to start with that game. Let's see here. Clemson, undefeated on the season, 13-0, and yet they're a dog, 6.5 to Bama. The total has come down to 51. And this Clemson team, I have to wonder if Dabo Swinney, this guy is the Rodney Dangerfield of college football, undefeated, no respect here as a dog. Actually, they're 14-0 and have a chance here to go 15-0. It's really the super sophomores with him. Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, 31 touchdowns, 12 picks. They come off a game against Oklahoma. They were down by 1 at the half, and they just blew out the Sooners 37-17. Sensational second half adjustments. This team is just doing it all. Underrated defense as well. So Harvard, when you look at this team, are we looking at a 15-0 college football team wearing orange?
No, I don't think so. I think Alabama's going to lock this up. If for the few people that watched the game on New Year's Eve, by the way, the ratings are down
big time,
45%. It just gives you one more reason to hate the NCAA if they're the ones that scheduled this. I mean, who would think that New Year's Eve is going to get, it's just stupid.
They did.
And not only did they do it, but they're locked in for, I think, the next 4 years on New Year's Eve. So it's not like they can say, hey, we made a mistake, let's correct it. No, let's just go forward. Anyway, getting back to that Clemson-Oklahoma game, basically I think Oklahoma was dominating till the second half came up. It was 17-16. Now, remember, there's a couple factors coming into this Clemson-Alabama game. First of all, Shaq Lawson, their All-American end, he has some type of knee injury that may keep him out of the game. Number two, on their comeback, you know what? They had 2 interceptions against Oklahoma's quarterback, Baker Mayfield. I bet there's not 10 people that even would know his name before. He is certainly no Jake Coker, who plays for Alabama. And number 3, we got to remember that the ACC title game, they gave up 37 points to North Carolina. The Michigan State, I want to get back to that game because this is a solid team that had been playing the last 4 games, holding their opposition to 12.5 points. What does Alabama do? They put up 38-0 whitewash. Jake Coker, he stepped it up. He's been throwing 67% for the entire year, but he got into Mr. Big Time, 25 for 30. And look at the defense. I don't think you're going to see much of this. In the entire season, 6 rushing touchdowns for the Alabama defensive front, and only 13 by the way of the pass for touchdowns, and they averaged 13 points per game. And then one thing that is, or actually 2 more things specific about this game. There's a practice rule. When you start your second semester after this game, you can have 2-a-days, which totally favors Alabama. But because Clemson started theirs before this game, they are limited to 20 hours of practice. Now, this applied last year. Ohio State was the beneficiary of the 2-a-days, and it worked out for them, and it's a huge thing. Secondly, if you're going to bet this game, I love the fact that Alabama, it went from 7 to 6.5. You might want to get it now before the line moves up. Knowing Las Vegas, since I've been here for 63 years, the junkets, the big gamblers, some of the biggest players in the country come in from Alabama. I think they're going to fly into Vegas. They're going to make huge bets on Alabama driving the line up. Whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter, but they will push that line up. There's not a lot of huge gamblers so from, say, South Carolina and Clemson in that area. But Alabama, they will bring in tons and tons and tons. This town will just float with Alabama and Southern players, SEC type. And they will come up and they'll bet that game, drive the line back up to 7 before they head down to Phoenix to watch this game. So put a little check mark, Alabama minus the 6.5, get it now.
Well, that is interesting because the line, we have 61% of the early bets, individual bets are on Bama, and yet the line has come down from 7 to 6.5, and the total has come down quite a bit from 53.5 to 51. But as you mentioned, it may start to come up as the public team, Bama people come into town leading up to the game, and they're likely to bet the favorite in this one. Here they are again, Bama 13-1 record. Nick Saban going for his 4th title in 9 seasons. Let's not forget he was also at LSU and won a championship too. So this guy is the king of national titles here in college football in his prime. Balanced on offense, which is what Saban loves to do with Derrick Henry, the Heisman running back, going over the 2,000-yard mark if you count the last week game. But the defense, as Harvard, you mentioned, just dominant all season. They had that meltdown game against Ole Miss, Zach, where they gave up 43 points. But ever since that game, boy, this defense has been on a mission.
Yeah, you've got to give Nick Saban accolades for what he's done with this team. Quite a turnaround. They looked like they were dead in the water, but they came through. But I like what Dabo Swinney's doing with Clemson. And I don't think they're going to win this game, but I think they'll cover the 6.5, 7 points. I'd get the hook now in case that does go down to 6. We don't know which way this line will move, so get that 7 points if you can. And I'm not even sure if there's a few books that have it at 7 because I know it opened at 7. So you might be able to find some 7s floating around out there. But the Clemson Tigers are getting value from being in the ACC. I know the ACC's been awful in the bowl games. NC State blown out. North Carolina lost to Baylor. Florida State blown out by Houston. Probably a couple others in there that I'm leaving out off the top of my head. But the ACC's been a very poor representation in the bowl season, so that's obviously skewed the value a little bit towards Alabama. SEC's been dominant, so you have the two sides of the spectrum right now that favor Alabama heavily right now, and that's why you saw this big line. I think certain books opened it at 4.5. There was a couple that opened up at 4.5 offshore and one in Vegas, and all the others did 7. So I think it's going to be right in between those two numbers, and that's why I like Clemson. But just going back to the quarterback play, Deshaun Watson, he is the type of guy that can give Alabama fits. He has that Kelly type of mobility that Ole Miss had. They have the options all over the field, so they're going to be able to spread the football around. That gave them problems against Ole Miss. And if that defense is surrendering points, that's going to limit the offense, because Jake Coker, obviously, he's shown his limitations before. Let's not forget that in that Ole Miss game, he was benched in favor of that freshman quarterback that was absolutely awful and not ready to go. And then Coker's been able to stabilize himself with the defense playing well and whatnot. And then lastly with this, let's look at Alabama's 4 bowl games in the past 2 years, or whatever you want to say, 3.5 years as they've been in the playoffs. Oklahoma and Ohio State losses. Notre Dame, Michigan State wins. And the stark contrast in styles is evident in those matchups. Notre Dame, Michigan State, they don't have the team speed. They don't have the strength. Ohio State, Urban Meyer, he goes all over the place to recruit those players. And obviously Oklahoma demoralized them with great quarterback play and speed a few years ago when they were 13, 14-point underdogs. So I think Clemson has all those intangibles that we've seen from Oklahoma and Ohio State. And Nick Saban, you can say the same things, you can praise him, but the team hasn't changed. They have the same type of players, that he recruits the same type of caliber players, and they still have the same deficiencies at quarterback. So I will side with Clemson here.
All right, Pitt is another ACC team that was a 3-point dog in the bowl and got steamrolled.
Yeah, by Navy. Yeah.
By Navy, correct, yeah. I'm going to take a look at the total for this game because the Clemson defense has been just sensational, overlooked because of their flashy offense. They had a game against Louisville and the high-octane offenses that Bobby Petrino loves to run, 20-17 final score. Notre Dame, I like what Brian Kelly does with that offense, although it has had some quarterback problems. But still, that was a 24-23 defensive game in the rain. And then Florida State can do a lot on offense, 23-14 win. And then, of course, last week against Oklahoma with incredible, unstoppable offense the last 2 months the Sooners had. They allowed just 17 points the Clemson defense had. They're 13th in the country against the pass. They're one of the best teams all around. They can get after the passer as well. Very underrated defense for Clemson. They're also 10-5 under the total at neutral sites. When the Tigers face a team with a winning record, they're 10-3 under the total. And then the Bama defense, which you just talked about, just high NFL talent all season long, and they've just been on a red-hot roll, including that game against Michigan State, just shutting out, which is a pretty good Michigan State offense, dominating the game. They've been on a roll since that Ole Miss meltdown a couple months ago on an 8-3 run under the total. I think I agree with kind of line movement here of the total coming down to 51. I will look at Alabama-Clemson under the total on Monday.